Republican Party was out in full force this weekend, whipping up fear over the president's budget because, you know, Republicans are fiscal conservatives now. Our fourth story tonight, the real story of the budget, the real story of the opposition to it. Former Bush political guru Karl Rove opposing Obama's budget of $3.5 trillion on the grounds that, you know, Republicans are fiscal conservatives now.
To suggest that adding $2.9 trillion to the deficit in 8 years with two wars, Katrina, 9/11, and a tech bubble bursting, makes us somehow, as Republicans, unable to talk about fiscal responsibility when this president, in his own budget document right here, says he's going to add $3.2 trillion to the deficit in the first 20 months and 11 days. He is going to double it in the first 4 years and triple it if he gets another term.
Except, of course, unlike President Rove or his assistant, Mr. Bush, President Obama includes the cost of Mr. Bush's wars in his budget, as well as the cost of Mr. Bush's unfought war, an actual effort to get bin Laden. President Obama also includes the $60 billion a year lost through the suspension of the AMT, the alternative minimum tax. President Obama also budgets more for federal disaster relief than Mr. Bush did, which was both literally and far too powerfully symbolically exactly $0 billion. More so than Mr. Rove, Senate Republican Whip Jon Kyl expressing the honest GOP position when he said of the budget this weekend, quote, "It is terrifying in the policy implications." Terrifying. The budget is, as he says, not just numbers. It is a roadmap of presidential policy, in this case a historic president whose budget roadmap reveals not just a historic but a radical redirection for the entire country. So what exactly are the policy implications of Mr. Obama's new direction for America? Monstrous enough to terrify U.S. senators? Perhaps it has to do with where all that money is going. The U.S. government, us, we the people, we will set aside $634 billion over 10 years as a down payment toward the ultimate goal that every American will have health coverage, including the 46 million and counting Americans, men, women, and children who lack coverage, as well as all the Americans who would otherwise go bankrupt paying for future health coverage. Included in that cost, preventive care, a cost that is apparently, transparently, a cost-cutting measure down the road. And yes, oh ye Puritans among us, America will pay for contraceptives. Taxpayer dollars for evil condoms and horrible birth control pills. Contraceptives that states already have the option of providing for low-income fornicators. Fornication that otherwise would lead to untold, unwanted pregnancies, unwanted babies, unwanted abortions, unwanted drains on families, unwanted drains on, yes, the national economy. The Congressional Budget Office estimating $200 million saved over 5 years thanks to, contraceptives and family planning. Or could this be about the kids receiving massive increases in government scholarships and lending from college down to early Head Start? Or could it be about the poor in line for everything from help weatherizing their homes to save on energy costs, the average family saving an estimated $350 a year on energy costs, to federal assistance expanding internet access to remote rural areas of the country, not to mention improving our roads and our bridges and easing the strain on them with high-speed rail, quite possibly through John Boehner's district. If all those sound like worthy investments, perhaps Republican terror stems from the source of this money. Is the president planning to end 3 decades of growing income disparity, tilt the playing field back towards the middle class? Is Obama really trying to turn America into a country that taxes the rich people? Oh, yes. Hell yes. Starting not now in a recession, but in 2011. Rich people will qualify for fewer tax deductions. So few that the functional tax rate might even rise to something like yours. And capital gains, money that you make any way other than working for it, that will now get taxed not at 15%, but at 20%. Oh, the humanity. Oh, and hedge fund managers will have their tax rates raised, too, to the astronomical rates now being paid by hedge fund managers' secretaries. The rich will also get less in Medicare benefits. You heard me. They get Medicare benefits. What about the small businesses that will get crushed by these tax hikes? That part is true. Tax hikes are on the way for every single small business except 98.1% of them. And of those remaining 1.9% small business owners, more than 500,000 are merely passive investors who have nothing to do with actually running that business. George Bush, for instance. Seriously. But hold on. House Republican leader Boehner says the budget raises taxes on every American. How? Because now energy suppliers will pay a fee, $646 billion over 10 years, for exceeding carbon caps, and therefore they might in turn raise prices to the consumer. Corporate America, equivalent to government in Republican eyes, namely a private price hike equals a public tax hike. But in reality, those carbon fees will not only offset the price hikes, they will be used to cut payroll taxes for every single American on a payroll, not to mention $15 billion a year to research alternative energies. Oh, and to lower greenhouse gases just might slow global warming, thereby saving the planet. No planet and the economy will really slow down, and suddenly. Also coughing up money, toxic waste polluters, $17 billion over 10 years. Superfund is back, kids. Agribusiness, not small farmers, will lose its $500,000 subsidies, just like banks will lose $4 billion in government payments for making student loans. Oil and gas will lose $35 billion in payments and loopholes. Insurance companies and pharmaceuticals are losing billions in wasted federal payments. You get the picture. And that, in short, is just some of what terrifies the GOP. That is what lies behind the budget debate, a debate Republicans have every reason to keep fighting, despite the fact that they already lost it on Election Day.